Hello, and welcome to Unexplained Possibilities Podcast. I'm your host, Melvin the Crimson Taurus, and tonight, I actually forgot to introduce Neima. What the heck?
You've been doing this without me too long.
Yes. Oh, wow. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. No, just keep it in.
Not only is Neima with us, hi Neima,
Hello, everyone.
but we also have a guest joining us tonight. Yes, that's right. Neima is here with the guest. I know, shocking. So, returning for the second time, going solo this time, because last time she was here with JD Temple, I'm happy to introduce Bonnie Woodruff. Bonnie, welcome back.
Thanks. Hey guys, how are you this evening?
So we have a lot to talk about, and hopefully it gets a little scary. Not too scary, but just something where it'll send a shiver down someone's spine and they're just like, ah! But, you know,
Absolutely.
no bad dreams or anything like that.
I'm already dreading this.
What? It's
Gonna be sleeping with crystals under your pillow.
Yeah.
It's nothing
Staging
to
my
dread.
whole room at least twice.
Oh, come on. You know me. You know I don't go too extreme. Well, I mean, except for, and I like bringing this up with the black-eyed kids thing, which I didn't know you were that much of a pansy. So, I'm sorry.
They're pretty creepy. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
They're pretty creepy.
Bonnie, you know, we're going to jump right into it. Recently, you were at Goatmans Bridge.
Yes.
Okay, before we get into your experiences, can you share with us some of the history of Goatmans Bridge?
Okay. Goatmans Bridge is also known as Old Alton Bridge. It's in Copper Canyon, or like basically in between Louisville, Texas, and Denton. And it has a history. So what it's known as, there was an old goat farmer. He was, African American, and this is back in the days, and it's not cool for an African American to be successful, right? So the Klansmen did not like that he was successful, because he was selling meat, he was making money and providing for his family. So the Klansman, supposedly, the story goes, and his name was, what was his, Washburn. It was something Washburn. It starts with a C. My brain just lit and forgot it. But Mr. Washburn, the Klansman took him, okay, and hung him over this bridge. And they went the next day to retrieve the body. And there was nothing at the other end of the noose or what they had hung him from. Okay. Now some stories say that his whole family was killed. Some others, it says that it was just him, but the body was never supposedly recovered. And this is the South. I mean, historically, records found or not, these stories come from somewhere. I mean, these things, it's not rare for this stuff to have happened. You know what I mean? Go back, 15, 20 years ago, Jasper, Texas, it was another horrific thing that happened. It just, hate is still out there, and it can make way for some really nasty energy. So the Goatman, his spirit came back as half man, half goat. And it's I guess the angry spirit is more demonic because it is angered, of course. I mean, if you killed me, I'd probably be pretty upset too,
Yeah, I'd be fairly heated. I'd make your life miserable.
I would come back and haunt you. I would come, I would not put it past myself to haunt somebody. Let's just be honest. Everybody that knows me would not doubt that one bit.
Is that the Aries?
That's the Aries coming out of me. We were talking. I'm an Aries moon. I'm a Cancer sun, which is all sweet, and we're a little bit emotional. Not me, because I have so much Aries in me that it's it kind of balances that crybaby part out a bit. So I'm feisty, is what I've been told.
That's a good way. That's such a Texas term too. Feisty.
Feisty, yes. That is so funny. Well, yeah, and we call all, I'm drinking, even though it's a Pepsi, I'm drinking a Coke. Everything's a Coke here. I know I was like laughing because I didn't realize there's so many, the words are so different everywhere, different parts of just, our one country here. It's it's interesting. So yeah, I might have a little bit of a different twang for sure.
No, but I like it. So, okay. So your experiences at Goatman's Bridge. First, why the heck did you go there?
Well, okay. So we had visited family, and it was, I've grown up as a kid, and I would only go during the day as a teenager, right? Because, you hear all the horror stories, from our parents and so forth. Well, I'm just like, I want to go to Goatman's Bridge. It just kind of popped in my head, and I was like, I had all my stuff with me. I always carry my, like at least my, the one that, like, my EVP, I always bring that. And I had my SB7, and I just kind of carry, like most people carry in their purse, like, their wallet. I carry a lot of just paranormal. And because even though I can sense things without those tools, I know that other people experience it a little different, and it helps for another person to kind of feel or pick up what I do. And I think that's what's cool about those tools is that, hey, y'all heard that too. That's really great.
Yeah, I'm not alone in this.
Yay. Right. But that place, because it is so neat. Look, the pictures do not really even capture especially at night. When you walk in there at night with the sun's down, everything, that it's got a whole different energy. It is thick, is the best way I can describe it. I walked and I was like, okay, I'm ready. I had this kind of like, okay, time to step on the bridge. Yes. And I stepped up there. I'm like, whoa. And it's like everything was off balance. I had to kind of center myself because it makes you a little bit dizzy. It was now when you first come up to the bridge, the further into the bridge, the worse it got to me. So like, I just like the first thing I'm seeing is a big black mass towards the end of the bridge. Now, the closer I got to it, I don't know if it was just nervous or curious about me, but it backed up. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to mess. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm backing up. But there was something definitely, I want to say that it was not really, I don't want to say and assume that it was afraid of me, because I don't think that at all. I think that it wanted to get me alone. And because it was weird. I wanted to go off the bridge and keep walking. Well, the more I kept walking, I realized I was really close to the creek. And I'm going, wait a minute. This thing is trying to lead me astray here. And so I kind of was like, okay, get back together, go back. And so I went back on the bridge. And we kept picking up the name Kevin. Now, we had met up with some people. It just happened to meet up with people that happened to be going there at the same time. They Ubered out there, which is even funnier. I'm like, y'all Ubered out here? That's like crazy. That's crazy. That's some hardcore stuff if you're going to Uber out to your haunted location. But that's like heart. They've got heart, when you do that. And I'm like, okay, y'all's name's not Kevin, because they'd already introduced us. I said, no, but my real name's Kevin. I said, oh, well, hello. And I pointed down at the SB7. I'm like, well, it is trying to get your attention. And he's like, okay. He was like, huh. He's like, there is something nasty. I said, oh, it's definitely a lot of anger, I would say. The other thing that I did pick up, and I'm still trying, because I do try to research the feelings and the things that I've gotten. I felt like somebody had their hand over my nose and my mouth, like trying to keep me from breathing. But like my head was being pushed down too. And anybody that's been in the country and that you've jumped around and played around in creek bottoms, that feeling when your feet go into mud. I've slipped in mud many times growing up. And it was almost like my head, something was wanting to, like, I could almost picture somebody's head being held into like the muddy water of a creek bottom, like where really shallow, but still like somebody's holding them down. So
now, you know how crazy I am? I'm thinking about baptismals. How, sometimes you'll go to a creek and they're like...
I'm sorry, but yes. Oh my goodness, yes. Well, it's that movie with George Clooney.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, get in, the rivers will not, or the water's great. Fine.
Yeah. So, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Great movie,
Yes.
by the way.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It is.
So I don't know what that says about me, but I'm thinking, oh man, you're getting baptized and now you can't breathe.
Well, I don't think that he wanted him to come back up for this, whatever it was that I kept having that feeling. It was like, wow, another very interesting. And I sent some pictures on Twitter, but the one thing that if you notice, there is I didn't notice it until later. We're sitting in there, and I had taken my son because he's got gifts too, and I feel like for myself personally that instead of being young and curious and not understanding what it is and just being frightened, I'm trying to teach him early what to do and how to handle these gifts. I guess you'll call them. I mean, I don't know what else to call them other than your uniqueness. And I just want him to know how to protect himself, not to get over upset or frightened. But so he was with me and he's like, Mom, there's salt right here. We're sitting down. So of all this whole bridge, I had sat down. I was getting my equipment and we're, sitting there kind of talking, chit-chatting. And he goes, Mom, there's salt. And I go, and I take my phone, I'm looking like, that is salt. And I stand up and I get to look and there's a whole bunch of it. And I'm like, we're sitting in a salt ring. We're sitting in a salt circle. Yes.
Wow.
And they're like, but that's a good thing. I said, well, it doesn't always have to be necessarily a good thing. I said, it's keeping things out, or it can trap you in depending on how this was set up. I said, my brain went, if you've ever seen The Skeleton Key with, Goldie Hawn's daughter.
Kate Hudson.
Yes. Okay. So if you've ever seen that, she trapped herself in her own, you know what I mean? And that's how the woman, sorry, I'm a spoiler alert, but that's how that ended up going down, is she trapped herself in there. And it was like, ha ha, I got you, lady. Now I can have your soul, basically type.
Yeah, if you're going to do that, make sure you have an escape, a way out, or jump out the window if you must.
And then I'm going, oh my God, how is it that we were attracted, of all the bridge though? Of the whole bridge that we could have sit down anywhere. Here I'm sitting in the salt ring that's already there. I'm going.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It was, absolutely. That would really weirded me out because it was like, man, it could be just a huge coincidence maybe, but of all the bridge, that's where I needed to sit. That's where I wanted to sit. And it wasn't the middle. It wasn't even the middle of the bridge. It was toward the back where, it has that darker energy, which is kind of weird as well.
When you mentioned that, it felt like a hand was over your face and it was hard for you to breathe and such things like that. I immediately also, aside from baptism, I thought of the episode of Ghost Adventures when they went there, and Zach, he was choking himself out, but the thing was, according to him, he wasn't in control. And he couldn't breathe and stuff. And when you were saying it, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Okay, wait a minute. What's funny is I have to watch that episode again. It's honestly been over a year or more since, it was like, I saw it the one when it first came out because I knew it was going to be showing that. Because they were actually, I was up and visiting family at the same time they were there, oddly enough. But I made sure I watched it that time, but I hadn't watched it since then. So, they've had so many different episodes that I love that my brain will, I have to remember which one's which. And now that you mention it, because what I remember most about that one is that this thing did not care much for females.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, but I forgot about the whole him being choked part. And yeah, it is it's a suffocating is the only way. You're almost fighting to breathe. I'm going, what the hell? I'm going, ooh. I stood up thinking, okay, maybe it's just the air really thick, but it was almost like somebody had their hand. And, if you've ever I'm a pillow, when I sleep, I don't know, I'll put my face in my pillow. I'm like, it's so hot. I'm choking myself. So I'll have to flip around and get comfortable. But it's it's just being smothered. It's a hard way to explain it, but it was not cool. It was not cool.
Yeah, it would suck. I don't I mean, unless you're into that type of thing, I
No,
can't.
well, you know, there's some. I guess there are
Actually,
people out
no,
there.
that might be get a freak out there and like, all right, do your worst.
Right. Well, and I sure made, well, I was really careful not to really try to sit there and provoke it, because it was such when I first walked up there, and it was really just us. It was really quiet at the moment. It was really just, ooh, you know what I mean? It's like that's ooh. I don't, you know, you ever just been in a place that it just didn't feel right? It had that. Or walking into after people have been arguing, and you can say you can cut the air with a knife or whatever. You know, it was that. It was something just nasty there that I guess I would say would be residual from whatever had happened in the past. It was definitely still, it's still strong, imprinted in, you know, still to this day.
Crazy.
Neima, you want to go to Goatman's Bridge?
Hell no.
Oh, come on, it'll be fun.
Go in the opposite direction as far as I can go.
Yeah, but that's...
That one is a tough one.
So, you mentioned that you were able to feel the energy and like you got your senses going, and you said that you have a gift, uniqueness. I mean, you're borderline a Power Ranger in my book, which is awesome because I like the Power Rangers.
Oh, thank you. As long as I can be, I want to be the you know, the one where it's black, because that's my favorite color, obvious. But yeah, I'm going to be the Black Ranger. Yes.
So tell us a bit about your gifts. Like, when did it pop up, I guess, for lack of a better word, or...
Well, okay. What's just funny is the first thing that I've ever been told is when I was baby, infant, newborn. I mean, my mother had never seen the spirit ever. She has premonitions. Like, we definitely, as me and my sister both, it's like my mom had a bad feeling about something. We listened. I mean, there was no question, because it always happened. And the more intense that her feelings were, the more, you know, we would just, you know, we knew. We just never doubted it. And to this day, we'll go, Mom, do you have a bad feeling about that? You know, when I see it. It's just, we've just always relied on it. And she said that she told my dad that one morning she was, like, he had left for work, and that I was in my little bassinet. And she said she had Mr. Peppermint on. Oh my gosh, it says how old I am. But Mr. Peppermint on in the background, even though I'm 6 months old at the time, if that even. Like, I'm not even caring about that dude, but okay. That's the kind of mom she was just always. She was an amazing mom when it came to doing, like, you know, your cookie cutter mom. Well, she was kind of dozing off. I'd already been fed. I was laying asleep in the crib, and she says, a woman look in the crib in my little bassinet. She was, but there's nobody here. You know, she's like, her brain's still in her. Why is this dark? She said it was a dark-headed woman with dark eyes, and she turns around. She looks into the bassinet at me, smiles, looks at my mom and smiles. And then my mom, like, kind of blinks, like, this is not happening, and then she's gone. Well, my grandmother, the one that I am actually named after, Bonnie, my grandmother's name was Bonnie. My dad was like, that's my mom. That's, you know, when she was, mom was telling my dad later that day, that was my mom, Brenda. And it was weird because, I mean, it described her to a T. She had died 2 years, like, I was born 2 years after my parents were married. And so 4 years, it was like 4 years after her death is when she was looking at me. So that was but the first time I remember is, I can remember it vividly to this day, because, like, this was one of my first, and I saw this one. Like, sometimes I see, sometimes I just sense, sometimes I hear them. But this time I saw, and I wake up, me and my sister slept in the same bed. We had, you know, it was a big house, but it only had 2 bedrooms. And we were laying in bed, but I wake up because I like to sleep in. And I look at the clock out of habit. Whenever I wake up, I'm like, I need to know how much longer I can sleep. And I look at the clock, and there's a lady standing there looking out the window, had her back to me, but she had her, you know, blonde hair And so she reminded me of my mom, and it was kind of in that 80s bun thing, you know, the twisty whatever. But I'm like, Mom, I'm whispering because my sister was asleep next to me. I said, Mom, or I'm thinking my sister was like, Mom, what are you doing up? Nothing. She didn't answer. She didn't turn. She didn't look at me. She kept looking out the window. I said, Mom. And then at that moment, I start looking, why isn't she answering me? Then I look at her clothes. And it was, I guess I'd say turn of the century type. It was like 1800s type clothing. And I'm going, oh, that's not normal. You know, I was scared, terrified because I knew it shouldn't be there because, you know, this is somebody I don't know. But I was too, now this is honest and I'm going to be honest about it. I was too afraid at that point in my life to scream for my mother. All I did is I remember pulling the covers up over my eyes and going, Sissy, are you up? She said, yes. I said, oh, you know, I realized at that moment she wasn't asleep the whole time. I said, do you see that? She says, yes, I told you. I told you. And I'm going, call Mom. I said, call Mom. Because I was whispering it at a little time. I'm like, please call Mom. Because I couldn't even find it to holler out. And so I remember, my sister's loud, ah, Mom, you know, gone. But yeah, I mean, so, and I wouldn't tell my parents why, but I would sneak in their bed up until I was like 12 years old, it was really bad. I guess, because there would just be things, people, like I saw a lot of shadow people, a lot. Now, not all shadow people are bad. Even like Amy Allen, you know, from the Dead Files, not all of them are bad. Some of them are kind of just, that's the only way they can manifest, or sometimes that's just, you know, I guess that's all they can do, but sometimes it is bad. Now, for me, what I've noticed, the ones that are not see-through black shadows, if you can't see through it, you better just back away. Just nice and easy, back away. And that's from my experience, because in my own house now, I thought it was almost like I was walking in my bathroom one night and I'm heading in there, you know, and I'm like, oh, I have thought there was a burglar, because it was so solid. It looked like just a person wearing black.
Oh, wow.
And I stopped and I'm like, okay, that's not a person. And so I just turned around like, I don't have to pee right now. I'm good.
Now, you see, that would really cook my grits, because the throne room is sacred, and I make sure everyone knows nothing happens in the bathroom. Like, go elsewhere, but this is a sacred ground.
Leave my bathroom alone.
Yeah, so I'd have to fight them. Like, honestly, I'm not even joking.
And that's what's funny, is because it was all around that time that it's like, okay, this is getting enough to where I need mentorship. Okay, this is a bit. Okay, this is something that's different about you, unique about you. So now you need to learn how to handle it and protect yourself. And so that's what I did. And I found, luckily, I had an amazing person. His name's Chuck Murphy. He does mentoring and just helps me learn how to line out all this stuff that was, and he's like, honey, you're, you know, and he did, he's like, you're a physical medium. I was like, what? Like, what's the difference? Like, how many mediums? Like, I didn't know. It blew my mind that there were so many different type of gifts. He said, you know, it's very interesting. He would send me photos and tell me to read it, and he would know the history on the photo. I wouldn't. And, you know, there was a couple that were actually, the energies, even just reading the photos was really hard. I was like, I can't get this. This guy is an ugly man. He's not very nice. And I realized that I said, he's not dead. So it's even harder, you know, when you have a living energy that's kind of manifesting bad, especially if they know that you're picking up on them. And I feel like this guy just I don't know. He was just a nasty person, and he had killed people. Oh. And I just realized, he goes, okay. He goes, I'm sorry. He goes, once he realized how sensitive I was, that I was picking up, he's like, all right, you're going to have to make him back off you. And he walked me through it. It was, I mean, it was really, it was an amazing way to learn how to protect myself, because we come across this all the time. A lot of times people just don't even realize it. A person can have ugly thoughts towards you, be mad at you, or be jealous of you even, and all that energy does is it can create nasty stuff. I mean, unrepressed or suppressed feelings that's where poltergeists begin. So yeah.
Wow, it almost sounds like you're creating a tulpa
Mm-hmm.
in that regard.
Right.
There are some folks who are pretty freaking negative, and I had no idea that type of energy can actually create something that could possibly affect you.
Oh, I've had to cleanse my house of another I meknow this is going to sound ugly, but a person that it was a bad relationship, and I realized it really quick on, because I've experienced things, you know what I mean? And it's not to be a pity party, but I realized that this is a red flag from this dude. So I just got out of it. Well, he didn't like the way that I just jumped, I guess he wasn't ready to quit. And his energy, I mean, and I have it way back on my Twitter. It was caught on my security camera. It looked like a shadow person. And this was his energy manifesting and messing with me in my home. It can happen, yes. And that's what, you know what I mean? Protect yourself, yes. Living.
What was I going to ask you? I have a question. So since you're so sensitive to it, do you think it naturally attracts you, and stuff just comes around you just because you're sensitive?
Okay, the way that my mentor described, he goes, okay, and he kind of, if you've ever Finding Nemo, the fish that were at the bottom of the ocean that had that one light. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, you're going to be drawn to that one light, because that's something that's another living being, right? So even though that some are living, some, especially when it comes to those, the uncorporeal energies, the ones that are passed on, if they know that I can sense them, yes, they will. Hey, I need to tell so-and-so this. I'm like, I don't know so-and-so. I am not just going to pop up in their messages and freak them out. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, definitely the more open you are, the more, and the thing is, we are all capable of being open. It's just, I think it's the way, with me, it's, even though I'm pretty tough, I'm like, I don't fight me, I'm that type, but at the same time, I am very caring. I want peace, love, kitties. I want, you know what I mean? I want good things for everybody. I try not to let anything like negativity, hate, anger, people that talk ugly about me or what I honestly, it's like, and it's funny, it's like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have even recognized myself, because I'm like, fight me, it was all, you know what I mean, back then.
Right.
Now it's like, who cares what that person thinks? What is, they're kind of an ugly energy anyway. I really don't, what they say doesn't matter.
Just give them the middle finger and keep walking.
Absolutely. Keep on going, because you're doing you. And as long as you're happy and that and that's why, when they say vibes, well, when your vibes or your vibration is uplifted, it makes it a lot harder for those nasty things to get to you. You know what I mean? And that's why I always tease them. We're like, raise your vibration. Well, when people say that, they're meaning things that make you happy, the things that keep you in good spirits. Those are always try to keep those around. Don't care what, if others trying to drag you down. A lot of people in this world that are angry or bitter for some reason, they're going to want to drag you down, they just want you in that same negative hole. And of course that can just cause chaos. And especially the more open you are, the chaos can get pretty bad at times. So I just stay away. I've learned.
Yeah, that's a good lesson for everyone. Just,
Except for going to places like, I guess, the Goatmans.
Well, yeah.
That I can't. The curiosity gets, you know what I mean? Because I want to know really if it's what and from, it's something nasty happened there. I do feel like there was somebody that has been drowned there as well. But as far as the hanging, there was a lot of anger angry energy. I can say that there is something that is so angry about that it's very obvious. You know, you can feel it when you step on the bridge. It was really weird, of course. And I did, you know, in the tale, I didn't mention this. It's knock 3 times at midnight. So I knocked 3 times at midnight on the bridge just to see.
You are a brave soul,
fun.
aren't you?
You know, I try to be. I mean, sometimes, like, I will. It's what's funny is the one thing that I almost, and I think I had that on Periscope, where I'm walking and I'm good. I'm going actually deep in the woods at this point, and then I see this thing move out of this kind of corner of my eyes, and being Texas, snake, oh my gosh, jump. And I'm going, this is pretty bad. Here I am running into the forest, deep into the forest for a demon. Yeah, the thing that makes me jump is a snake. Go figure.
I'm worse than you, because when you were saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, I could picture me in there and a deer will come out and get me.
A deer?
A deer. That's what would get me, a deer. I'm a Californian boy, okay? So it's the deer.
Gotcha. The evil Bambis, let me tell you, they are killer.
Hey, don't mess with deer, man. They can, when it's time to get it on, those guys get crazy.
Oh, no, yes. Okay, yeah. When the 2 males, you definitely don't want to mess with all that.
But yeah, a deer would get me.
That would do it. What was it? We were talking about that at work today. It's like, that would be my way. I'm walking to a door and that would be my, you know, just something goofy, like just, you know, push it, you know, it's going to be something just very random and like, really? That's how she went out? It's like, gosh, it's not even exciting at all. Like, that's just dumb, you know?
All right. Now, speaking about forests, you shared with me a picture on Facebook, and I showed it to Neima, so she knows what this looks like. It was a picture of just, well, when you first look at it, just trees, and, you know, I guess it's a nice looking area. Yeah, I mean, you could say that. And then, you know, you kind of notice something that's out of place. You don't notice it right away until you just like, hey, this looks different. And next shot, it was zoomed in, and you see a face and a body, and it's different looking. It's human-ish, but it's something off. I don't know what. Neima didn't see it, though. The first time I showed her, she was like, oh, it looks like a guy to me. Well, I mean... you know, but
right.
Yeah, everyone sees something different, so it's just, you know, that's fine.
Well,
but
definitely being disembodied.
Yeah, what's up with this?
Okay, well, it was about 2 years ago. I had a friend that I was one of my interwebs friend that from one of the podcasts I listened to. Through another friend, learned about my abilities and was like, okay, you need to talk to Bonnie about this. She can help you. And so I get this message saying, hey, I'm a photographer and I was doing some landscape portraits and I got something kind of weird. Would you mind looking at it? I'm like, there's not much in this weird to me. You know, I said, but absolutely, you can send it to my email. I said, but I prefer just seeing what I get, you know, just before I even look at the picture. And so I go home and me and him get on Skype and I was like, okay, I feel like, first of all, I was telling him, I said, I feel like this is at a burial ground. I said, I keep getting the letter S. It's like, I said, I don't know if it's the tribe because this has got a Native American feel to it. I said, it's got an S. So I don't know if it's the Indian's actual name or the, you know, the tribe of Indians he's from. I said, but I see a man running in the forest and he's got like, it's like, and I'm seeing it through this guy's eyes. So I'm him, basically. I'm the one running through the forest and I keep looking behind me because there are people chasing me down like a dog. And I feel this impact in my back and I fall forward. And I said, and so I go to open this picture and I said, holy smoke. I said, you're on an Indian burial mound. And he's like, what? And then a few minutes later, he sends me this link to this history supposedly about the area. The white man had dug up an old burial mound. This is somewhere, I'll just say it's somewhere in Iowa. And But what they would do is they would remove where the burial ground was, and they'll take the bodies and they'll just put them somewhere else. Well, when the Americans did that, they didn't like say, hey, this is where the burial ground is now. So it's kind of was like a lost mound. Like the tribe had no idea where this mound was moved, from my understanding of it. Well, you get looking in it, and it tells you about a Sioux, so that's the S, a Sioux Indian, and a chief, our chief's brother, and his name started with S too. I can't remember the name of the chief's brother, but his name started with an S. And he was hunted down. The whole family ended up hunted down and murdered by the American settlers at that time. So this picture, he is, and I think it's the Indian's name with the S. I think it is him, the brother that was killed and chased down. But I think he is he guards that area where their dead are buried now. Even though it's not where it was originally, his soul is still made to protect the Indians where they are. And this is what I picked up from that photo. And, and the first thing I told him, I said, go out there. You want to burn some sage? And I told him, I laughed. I said, no, it's going to sound crazy. Take some sage and take some whiskey, or bourbon, but whiskey preferably. I said, and some tobacco, and burn it and say, I'm not here to harm you. I apologize if I've disrupted your land. I said, just go out there and just give them a little love token, because that land had been, it was sad what I picked up on had gone on there. And what was caught in the picture, if you pull it up real close, you can see it's just the head. It's a disembodied, I guess it's a Native American person's head. And if you look close enough, there's war paint. I mean, he's got war paint down the cheekbones. So you see, is like,
oh shoot, he does. Yes. Oh wow.
He's got war paint. And you see a little bit of the hair, and maybe looks like a start of a feather. So it was like when he caught it just at the amount of time that just the head, I don't know if either just his face was caught, or if it was that split second, he just got lucky. It was just amazing that he was able to catch us. And well, number one, you really don't think you ticked him off too bad, because he would have let you know if he didn't want you there. But go and tell them, I said, go and take all this stuff and do it anyways. I said, because just, out of respect, you know what I mean? I said, because you did stomp around on his dead possibly. So yeah, it was pretty interesting, because I was really shocked that the history of the land, when he sent it to me, was actually matching up. And he goes, I can't, he was like, I'm awestruck right now. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, you knew the history without me telling you. And I said, yeah, and I don't really study Iowa history. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? It's just, I guess it's one of those states that you kind of, so in the middle there, you just kind of, it's one that you don't hear a lot of.
You forget about it. I mean, it's Iowa. Like, it's the equivalent of Nebraska. I mean,
is it corn? I mean, what is it there? I mean, so yeah, it was like, it was like, okay, well, but honestly, their history is pretty rich to have that kind of absorption. Any Native American history, though, can be pretty tough if it wasn't handled properly. And there is and I'll have to look that up and send it later, because it was the name of that actual battle. It was pretty interesting. After I got to reading everything, I'm like, this is so. I said, I feel a little bit overwhelmed, because I'm like, because when I'm getting these things and these visions in my head, number one, my guides will give me the info, but they can't give me info if that spirit is not willing to talk to them. You know what I mean? So we all so if our guides don't want something to, I guess, come too close to us, or they can protect us in that way. That's why it's, important to, and it does sound kind of funny and quirky, but it is important to understand your guides and know what they're there for and how they can help you.
Neima, what are your thoughts now after hearing the backstory and everything?
No, I think that's pretty awesome. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
interesting for sure.
Right. It was just, well, it was one of those that I'm like, wow, how did you catch this? I mean, you know what I mean? It was like one of the pictures that I would have loved to caught, but you know, it's just, it doesn't happen often, you know?
Yeah, I think it's interesting how you can catch an image of something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And well, and like you were mentioning, you know, earlier, it's like EVPs and how that can go about, and just the oddity of that. It is really, you know, they do try to contact us a lot, especially if they have something to say. They're not going to go quiet just because they're not here. And the way when people are like, well, how do you know that, you know, that well, number one, I do know that spirits exist because I've, you know, there's just too many things that have happened through my life. But the way I always explain it is, well, if Albert Einstein said that, you know, E equals MC squared, whatever, it says energy does not die, it just transforms. Well, it just takes a different form. And that's kind of how that works.
That's gonna make me stay up all night now thinking about stuff. So.
You want to get creepy and just get...
No, don't worry. It's fine.
I sleep pretty good. Well, when I do get to sleep, I sleep pretty good once I get to sleep.
Yeah, no, luckily when I'm out, I'm out. So,
right.
I mean, I don't even dream. It's just I go to sleep and I wake up like, oh, well, it's the next day. Time to go.
I wish you sound chipper like that. Oh, I wish I could.
Yeah, I wish.
I'm like, oh, really again?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm kind of a morning person, and it just doesn't, you know, I'm just like, oh, because I guess this is the Taurus coming out in me, because I look at it like this.
Absolutely.
I get to eat more now.
Yay, time to eat.
Like, I swear. So I mean, I make it sound like I'm 300 pounds or something, but I'm not. And I honestly, like, that's what I look for. I was like, oh boy, I can't wait to eat tomorrow. I wonder what I'm going to have. Ooh, some cereal. It's going to be delicious. So
I've got one of my boys is just like that. It's too funny. He's like, I'm like, you're always hungry. He's like, I'm hungry, Mom. It's like, but that's not new.
Yeah, so let's talk about auras. Neima, you can kind of take over for this one because you're the one who actually mentioned it on Twitter. And I know I'm kind of just randomly throwing you the ball like that, but...
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I think it would be better coming from you than myself.
Yeah, well, I just think, especially lately, when I listen to people talk a lot, there's either one or two prominent colors, you know, on their right shoulder or around them. And it kind of makes me, like, it's really difficult for me to focus on the conversation because sometimes it's so strong. But I, you know, and I really don't know anything about auras.
Right.
I was reading something the other day that basically said, you know, we all have pretty much every single color in our aura, but some are more prominent depending on that person or where they're at in their life. So I understand that regard, but I'm like, okay, if I see these, like, do I have to say anything, or is it kind of just like, oh, that's a pretty color?
Well, sometimes it is, especially if you're seeing them like that, to where it is hard to focus. I would say, yeah, that maybe, especially, okay, because there's one person that I think of, and it was like always green when I would, it just green was the color. I mean, and green, and what this person was going through is, you know, you've heard of chakras, right? Well, each chakra has its own color. So the green is technically, you would call it the heart chakra. And so I knew that now, knowing he was going through like issues, you know, love issues, family, you know, problems at home and stuff like that. Well, that's why I was seeing that green, like, because it needed work, it needed help, it needed healing. Sometimes maybe it's just that person is a very loving person. But sometimes when you see it like that, I've had aura, you know, they do aura photography. And at my little metaphysical shop that I love going to in Louisville, or Flower Mound, they've taken mine. And when I first started my mentoring, I was, I guess, so kind of intimidated by all the different things that I was experiencing that my whole aura around me was red. That's root chakra. I was just so grounded that I was like not wanting anything to come in because, I don't want to deal with all this, you know? And recently, and I remember I tagged I posted the picture on Facebook and I tagged my mentor in it. And it's like, oh, look at it now. Look at my aura photo now. He goes, oh my gosh, I am so proud of you. That is exactly where you need to be, because it had the pinks, the purples. It had every color that I needed. But when I first started, I was straight. I mean, when I say red, I was red from the top of the picture to the bottom of the picture. It was ridiculous how much, because you don't want to have, it's good to have a little bit of flow of all of them, right? When you see the this, had no other color. It was red. It was red from top to bottom. And that meant that was overdone. You know what I mean? So I needed to actually help balancing that out so that the other colors could come through. And so when you think of auras, I would always kind of like understand the colors of the auras, of what they mean when it comes to chakras as well. Purple would be your, so if you see a purple on somebody, did you say purple a while ago or no?
No, I just think that's me. So you probably picked up on it.
Purple. Okay. So purple. Okay. Because are you trying to get more spiritual? Are you trying to learn? Because that is usually the crown, the crown chakra. That's the, there's like a long name used for each of them. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce any of them because it's an Indian, I don't know, it's not Indian, but it is a name, you know what I mean? Like namaste, I can say that. But the other one, I'm not, I think with this twang, no way. I just embarrass everybody. But so the crown chakra is a lot of purple, lilac-y, you know what I mean? It's your third eye is the indigo. But the crown chakra means, I would say, more spiritual. Like you're, that the third eye is probably developed, even if you might not always notice it. But aura reading is a good thing for people that don't know how to do it. And if you're like, oh, I want to see if I can do it, I say use a black. Okay, my computer monitor's off, and it's perfect right now. You can put your hand in front of a black, I would say, piece of fabric or anything black, and just hold your hand as still as you can, and just start kind of just staring, but not focusing on the hand too much. And once you're kind of, the pictures that you'll try to cross your eyes at, and to see the actual painting that's in it, it's kind of like that. So you'll focus until your eyes go goofy, and then you'll start seeing a layer of color around your fingers. And this, anybody can do this. It's just trying to give it patience enough to do so. And once you start seeing that color, there's going to be a thin color, and it's usually going to be kind of a silvery or cleary color. But the other colors around it, that's when you start paying attention to those. The colors you're saying that's sitting on people's shoulders, yes. And when you say shoulders, so think about it also, that could be a weight they're carrying. You know what I mean? If you know this person personally, if you find out that they're going through something, just if you ever need to talk, it's always cool to sit there and kind of say, hey, if you ever need anything to talk, I'm here. I'll let you know if you ever need to vent. It's always that's what the whole thing is, that when people do readings and stuff, most people get into it because you realize that these aren't just weird quirks with you. You're not crazy because you see these things. It's because you're meant to use them. I would say that you probably are meant to use them to help people. Mm-hmm. Isn't that just a wonderful blessing and great? I can't even. With me, it's I can't even tie my own shoes. So how am I supposed to help others? But no, it's honestly, the more you do help others, the more it feeds you, and it makes you. It honestly, it's a gift within itself.
Yeah, I would agree. So, but when you say, because I'm always looking up different guides, and I feel like everyone has their own opinion on what each chakra means or what each color means. Do you recommend a sound source that you would agree with?
Okay, and I'm just gonna go with. Do you feel like I feel like you're given, and this is just what I'm picking up with you. I would say that you're given a gut instinct of what you know what that means. Even if it's red, maybe you're thinking that it means that their heart, there's something wrong with the self-love. Go with your instinct. Trust your gut.
Oh, okay.
I would definitely say trust your gut, because these are a lot of times when you get that heavy of a like, but that doesn't make sense to that color. Well, then your guides are telling you what is this person's thing is. Just because you don't, you haven't, just because a person hasn't physically or talked to their guides, everybody's like, oh, my guides. Well, it took me a long time to learn how to meet my guides. That one's a process. For everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Once you finally do, it's, oh, okay, well, this person's been here the whole time. But that is usually your guide saying, hey, no, this person's going through something, and here I'm trying to give you a hint. And so if that's really what it feels like, I would say trust that instinct, because
okay,
it's usually going to be pretty spot on, and somebody will end up looking at you like, how did you know? It's kind of, it's always like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I've had to do that before, because I've had somebody go, you're scaring me. I said, no, I'm sorry. But if you, is there a way I can help you? And they're like, oh, okay. It's funny, but it's once you learn how to word it, and then just, it gets a little bit easier. I think that first awkward feeling, I would like to say it goes away, but I have a lot of friends, doing this as long as I have. I've had several different friends that do tarot, some that do oracle. I mean, like there's so many different types of cards out there. As far as in the runes, there's all kinds of reading that you can do. But each of my friends, it's like it is normal to doubt yourself. You just kind of have to realize that that's just the human part of you where you're overthinking it. And it's honestly, when people say you have to kind of let go and not think with your brain, that is very true. And it is extremely hard to do, because with me, it's like there's that Aries and that whole Cancer thing going on. And it's like, doubt yourself. No, don't doubt yourself. You're right. It's you'll find a balance. That makes sense. I mean, it is a hard thing just to kind of go with your gut at times, but I would say go with it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Right on, man. I actually learned some stuff. And of course, while you were talking about how you could possibly see it and everything, I was doing that. So,
well, the black works. Some people, they've said, well, white will work better. So if the black doesn't work after googly eyeing for a while, try white. But keep on trying, because it will eventually, you'll be like, oh my gosh, there's a color, you're like, wow.
Yeah. So that's interesting. That was Neima. I am very happy you mentioned something about that on Twitter. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's been really, well, it's just been more prominent lately. So I'm like,
and
when it learn a few things.
Right. Well, and when it gets prominent like that, it's almost like it'll eat at you until you do, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and go with this, because evidently, you know what I mean? And once you do, it's like that quenches, and you'll learn more, and it just, this is probably just the beginning for you, to be honest. So don't be surprised. Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to something that, it's very weird, because I like speaking about it, but then I don't like speaking about it. And this thing is just popping up everywhere. And within the last few years, it's just really blown up. Chances are, Bonnie, you know what I'm going to. Same with you, Neima. And let's talk about Zozo, or the Z entity.
Right. Okay. So, as you know, when I did the whole live sci-fi, when that happened, I was really getting towards the end of my mentorship. And this sounds terrible. And I did tell my mentor kind of after the fact, or right before I was going, I was like, okay, well, because I didn't want to be like, no, you don't need to go there. I was afraid he was going to scold me. But he is honestly, because he knows that I'm pretty protected. He knows that he made me feel so much better, because he wouldn't have allowed it. He would have flipped out had I not been prepared to go somewhere like that. He said, just be very observant, as I remember when, he was like, kind of be watchful, because, they will try to trick you or confuse you or whatnot. And so I went there honestly out of curiosity, and I had just stumbled up on Live Sci-Fi, the YouTube channel with the Tim Woods, and it was like, okay, well, one of the first ones I noticed is I can't remember where they were at. It was the one where they had they were in that house with all the mirrors. There were mirrors everywhere. And I'm going, oh, that's not good. All these mirrors, there's just like doors everywhere. And I was like, wow, I remembered him was like, wow, how did you, he messaged me back and was like, yeah. I was like, you can just tell that these mirrors have opened something. There's just doors everywhere in this house. I think it was, gosh, I can't remember the name of the house they were at that time. But when they had mentioned going to the Zozo house, it was in Oklahoma, which is, maybe a 4-hour drive. And in Texas, that's just about to be, that's just going to happen. Like, it takes forever to just go across Texas. So it's like, okay, I can do this. And when he, it's like, anybody that wants to join, I was like, hey, I'll join. He's like, sure. And I remember when I first walked into the house and before the cameras were going, it was like, I'm walking up your favorite, the creepy stairs. Because the stairs, you were right about the stairs. The stairs were, like Darren said, there was something different about the stairs, is all I can say. I saw a little kid, like a little girl. I felt her run past me, but I knew she was like a living child. I knew she was still living. So I don't know. Later I was like, Darren, I think I was your kid. You know what I mean? I would think I was picking up on what she had experienced in that house, because she was just bolting down the stairs, getting away from whatever. And I'm like, whoa. I said, and I looked up at Tim and I said, who's the dark-headed little girl with a ponytail? And his eyeballs popped open. And and then I remember Chloe goes, are you a psychic? Like that. And I'm going, I kind of like my mouth drawn, like, what do I say? Because it was just weird. And I said, Tim shakes his head. Yeah. I was like, and we just kind of kept going, because it was like, oh, wow. I think I just kind of floored him at that moment, because it was so weird how it was like I felt her energy just run past, even though it was just her experience. Like they say, you can stamp these traumatic experiences in time, and it's there. And I said, whoa. I said, okay. And the whole house, even looking at pictures, I wanted to say, it's almost like it had a living, breathing, it had a heart. You know what I mean? Have you ever seen the movie? It's like a kid's movie. It's called Monster House.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I know this is going to sound nuts, but it reminded me of that house, that it took on like a living, breathing, like a soul. It had a heart, and this Zozo or whatever. And I think that it hides. It's almost like it uses that as an alias for what or who he truly is. I have a couple of thoughts to who it could be, but I'm not 100% certain. But I will say it's from like the Lesser Keys of Solomon is where this thing, I feel like, in my opinion, has originated, right? And it's just using the Ouija board as a tool to bother people. And I've, even at home, I've had that happen. Like I collect, oh God, it's probably not a good thing, but I collect Ouija boards. Because until the time that I went on Live Sci-Fi, I had never touched a Ouija board. And I know and I'd never mentioned that, I don't think, to you before, but I'd never touched one before.
Now that is very surprising.
I had never touched one before, because I guess the way I looked at it is I didn't need one because I would pick up so much anyway, but I was still curious. And I'm like, okay, well, this guy's done this a million times. He pretty much knows, he knows what's going on, and I'm just going to trust that fact. Plus, I have my own, if you did notice the things I carried with me for protection, and so I did have my little amulets and stuff, so forth. So I knew that I was pretty much covered and I was going to be okay. And that, you were right when it is the St. Benedict coin. My mentor had actually given me that when he started mentoring me. He sent me a bag of stuff, and it was the St. Benedict coin. The other thing that we had, that I gave to Tim to put when Nicole had that reaction on the board was some holy oil from Jerusalem. you can buy it. It's actually, you can get it on Amazon.
Oh, wow.
And right.
I mean, it's just...
Isn't that great? Like, everything you need, you can find, and it was blessed. It's holy oil from Jerusalem. So, I mean, it's not like you can get it from a better place, right? And that's what it was like. Here, make sure you put this in the sign of a cross on the back of her neck. Because I just knew, and that's, when she finally kind of started getting back to better, because it didn't, like, it wasn't trying to possess her, but it was definitely affecting her, I guess you would say.
Yeah, like, I know, Neima, you probably didn't see that whole little special, but Nicole, this is what I recall, she had a nice energy to her at the start, but that particular night,
yeah.
She just, I don't know, the best way I could put it is she turned into a mouse, and it was like she was hiding and just did not want to be seen, and just answering very quickly, and like, nope, nope, don't notice me, and like, yep, I'm fine, I'm good. Like, no, you're not, lady.
Right, because, and that's kind of what it was. It was like, if it could piggyback off of her to get out of that house, then it was wanting to try to do so.
Yeah, so it was just very weird. And I even asked Darren about that. I was like, hey, is she okay, man? Because she's she's not coming to...
Concerned. Yeah, it is concerning, because, you watch that and you're like, whoa, wait, her whole energy changed. And like, and that's what, and I don't know if you could tell, like, from the feed itself, but when I was on the board, and I can't remember his name, but the younger guy that was wearing, it was in the Gonsfeld setup, he kept like turning towards me and like growling, and I'm like, you're not, I said, stop it. I said, of course, and because I know that, number one, I'm not going to let, fear is not going to, I don't let that in, because that is the absolute biggest no-no you can do. You go in a place like that, you cannot walk in afraid. They know it instantly. Anything that's negative there will pick up on that, and they're going to feed off of that, because that's what they look for. Kind of like when you're super excited about something, that's a whole lot of energy that they can use. So they'll grab off of that. Sadness is a strong energy that they can use. So anything that you let just kind of blow, that you I guess you would say overreact in any way, whether it be negative, sad, or happy, you have to kind of watch it, especially when you're in a very, I would say, land area with a lot of history, because there's so many different energies there. And that negative one, definitely, there was something nasty there. And if you recall, when I was on the board, it mentioned two names. The first name that it spelled out, I think the first name it spelled out was David, D-A-V-I-D. And I kind of laughed. I already knew what it was trying to do. It was trying to rile me up. I have an ex-husband, and that's his name, and he was very abusive. So it was just trying to use something that it knew that it could gather fear from me, or upset of any kind. And nobody there, and that's what I can say, is that legitimately nobody there, because because of David, I had to keep things very, very private for a long time. But nobody knew that my ex-husband's name was David. And I kind of laughed it off at first, and everybody there, so they kept going, right? Because I laughed, and it was like, okay. Well, then it started spelling Jacob. At first, Darren thought that it was talking about his son or something like that. But then I went, no. I said, no, it's talking about my other ex-husband. That's when I was like, it's my other ex-husband. And that's, and when it did that, and what nobody knew at the time, and I don't even know if you realize it, but we had just found out that Jacob, my oldest two boys, their dad had been diagnosed with brain cancer. That was hush hush. Nobody knew that. And so it was trying to get a rise out of me. So that's why I know from my own experience, it was totally, cause Tim had no idea who these people were. And I was like, no, that's my other ex-husband. And that's why I remember you mentioning that it sounded like I was playing lightly, but I wasn't. I knew that if I said something funny, it was going to raise the vibration to where it wasn't that negative, everybody kind of getting all stiff, you know what I mean, and kind of frightened. Well, if I said something funny like, hey, well, who's my next ex-husband? I knew that would get a giggle and make that whole energy in that room shift. And that was absolutely, when you mentioned that was absolutely, you were correct. That was my whole intention doing that, because I knew that I had to lighten things up.
Well, it worked, definitely.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't get that thing. I mean, was it you who said you thought it needed some love or something?
Yeah, no, it's like, oh, I said, you're really sad. I said, I'm sorry. Well, I love you. And, it's like at that point, screeching, wanting to screech across. I've had that happen at home where it wants to screech across the board when you give it love, because it's like it can't handle that. If you want to learn how to get rid of, honestly, it's like, what they say, kill them with kindness. In a weird way, that's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Well, this has nothing to do with anything, but I always say, if you get in an argument, just get naked. So.
Hey, nobody's going to fight somebody naked, right?
Exactly.
No, exactly. No, that's kind of the way you have to think of it. Whatever way you can to deflect that weird vibe that it's trying to get off. As long as you can throw it off and confuse it, that's the best thing to do. Personally.
Yeah, but this is exactly the reason why I won't do haunted houses and Ouija boards and stuff, because I would be the prime target. The things see me like, oh yeah, we got some filet mignon here. Let's get them.
It's a good one. Well, and that's what's funny is my sister is, she is very gifted too. However, she's like, I don't want to deal with it. Everything creeps her out. So she's like this. It's funny. She is so she's a Gemini. I tease. She's like, no, I'm good. Let me just have my friends, the ones that breathe. Those are the best ones. The ones that I can see all the time.
So yeah, that's a big no for me. I enjoy talking about this. Evidently, I'm interested in the paranormal and supernatural, or I wouldn't be doing this, but I know my limits.
But it is fun. It is an interesting thing.
You're an adrenaline junkie. That's what it is.
Perhaps. It is interesting. As much as I've experienced it, it's addicting a little bit. It can get addicting. Because it's like, okay, well, that was fun. Let's do it again. For me, a lot of people are like, oh, like with my coworkers, we work at a place that used to be a prison of war camp, a World War II prisoner of war camp. And so that's not a good history. That's, obviously. And it was and still is to this day, for the mentally ill and mentally handicapped. And now we have more of people that have done bad things, and jail is just not right for them, I guess you would say. And working out there, we would be on a dorm by ourselves where it was just us painting it, 4 of us. And we'd be in one room. The whole thing was locked where nobody else can get on in there. And something opened the door, and my coworker, gets literally, it kind of made him tumble backwards because he was trying to lean in, bend down real low, crouch into the ground, painting the bottom of a door, and it knocks him off. And he goes to open the door thinking it was a coworker that had a key and it had gotten in there, and he's like, hey, and he's like, and I just stood up and I walked out. I didn't try, because I don't want to scare them, to be honest, because they already get creeped out with me anyway. So I walked past them and I turn around and 3 grown men are following behind me. I started laughing. I said, now, isn't this a sight? They said, well, was it bad? I said, it just was kind of not happy. I said, it doesn't even know you're there. I said, but I just don't want to hang around it. They said, we're not going back there today.
I'm jumping through the wall. I'm getting out. No.
And that's what's funny. It's like, that's just, grown men. That's my work. It's funny because one has gotten a little more adjusted to it. He doesn't care for it, and his hair will stand on his arms. I start laughing. I said, are you okay? He goes, just a little creeped out, And I said, good. You should be. And he's like, what? What? I said, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
That's mean, Bonnie. Come on. Why you gotta mess with a guy like that? Now, this is something that's interesting, and I'll never forget this. Even if I tried, I can never forget this. And someone asked a question to Mr. Z, and someone asked the question, and it was, how can you be in several places at once? Like, how is that even possible? And its reply was pretty much insulting to us, like, humans are so stupid. You guys just don't get it.
Right.
And I'll never forget that. And it got me thinking about dimensions and spiritual, well, I guess a type of spiritual realm, for lack of a better word, and how when you're just on that other level, that next plane, you know, the physical body limitates us so much. And you have to...
We have time. We have time that's limited. Their time is limitless.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, you just don't get it. You'll probably get it once you move on, but now you don't get it. And I was just like, oh, wow, that's crazy. And then I got to thinking, like, okay, well, what if it's actually several different dimensions, and this guy is aware of this, and he's aware of his copies in every dimension, and he can manipulate it like that and go here, there, and there. And, you know, I just got into a whole little brain thing, and I'll never forget that.
And it is, like, the word wormhole, it just sounds so weird, but it is, for it to be in two places, it can. It just, because they have their time, they're not like on a scheduled clock like we are. We have to go to bed by this time to get up at this time and be at work by this time, right? That is not even anything that they have to even concern or worry about. You know what I mean? Their time is limitless, and they can just kind of skip through. Because I've had this happen, and this is what's very interesting. I'll know when the energy changes on a board now, because I'm more comfortable on a board. I never get on alone, really. So that's the one thing I don't do. I don't get on alone. Now, but when it comes to board, it'll be like, oh, here's the little rainbow effect. We're doing the Zozo, doing that. But then the whole energy will change, and it'll be like, who is this now? Because I'll know. And it'll try to spell out something. I've had it try to do other demonic names and stuff like that. And I've had it do people names. But like, so they can be here for a second messing with this. And then like, oh, I'm out. I'm going through this wormhole, getting back over here, messing with these people again. You know what I mean?
You know, I wonder if they just have fun doing that.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, because sometimes people, and this is going to say a lot about me, because I'm not a huge believer in good and evil per se, or at least not how it's represented in this society. But sometimes I wonder, because we know diddly squat about demonic entities, and sometimes I wonder if they do what they do just because they're bored and it's just fun to them, or if they just have such an understanding, some type of super sanity where in the end it doesn't matter, and I guess supreme nihilist, and they just like, whatever, I often wonder that.
Well, and we have boredom, yes, or, like some people want to sit there and they just assume, and there was a time in my, like I was raised, I always put the Hank Hill out there because, my dad was, but that girl Bonnie, I'm telling, he just sounded like Hank Hill, because I just always worried him like, what's his son's name?
Bobby.
From Hank. Bobby, say Bonnie, that Bonnie. It was like that with my dad, because Methodist Church, everything, which is actually a branch from Catholicism, and so I was raised very hardcore in that, and so growing up that way, you're told that demons are horrible. They're stay away, but that's just I will say, like the Bible in a sense is, I love some of the stuff in the Bible because it does have good things in it. Yet also it was written by a man. I don't care if it was, what God said for somebody to write. A person, a human being that had their own viewpoints on how they wanted to word it, did write it, right? So, technically, I guess if you want to look at it that way. So, I have a lot of friends that work with demons all the time. I actually, if you've ever heard of the Morrigan, I would consider her my patron. I work with her all the time, and she's known as the Phantom Queen. A lot of call her, they see her as death. She's fear. A lot of people fear her. The only thing for me is like, if I don't listen to her, I need to fear her. She's very, you need to do what I'm telling you to do type.
Okay.
And and it's been weird. Every time that I just go ahead and go with it works. And I guess some people would view her as evil, but she's helped me tremendously.
Well, if she wants to pass on some lotto numbers, I am listening.
Right. I'm telling you, it's like, hello, what was that? She's one of those. She'll make you work for it too. So it's like, but it was the first time I've ever worked with anything like that. Because I honestly, at that point in my life, it was like, I just don't know if I believe in any type of God. And well, I did end up believing in something because I don't know. It kind of kept coming at me, and I'm going, okay. I'm not going to be hard-headed anymore. It was funny because she is known as, people associate her with wolf. Also, like in Ireland, where her cave is, it's called the Cave of the Cat. Well, my cat, I swear she's used him a couple of times. Like my cat, I'd be sitting and I'm going through something at the time, and my cat would take his head and put his head on my forehead, forehead to forehead. And I'm going, okay, wow. Okay. Whatever I was going through at that time, it was like she was telling me it's going to be okay, but she used the cat because, it's just how she did with me. Everybody that's has her as their patron or has worked with her or through her, has had different experiences, but a lot of them are just kind of weird and strange like that. They just stand out as that was very incredibly odd.
That one's different.
The Morrigan is, if you ever look that up, she's the shapeshifter. So she's things that most people would be fearsome of. BADB is another name for her. I'll slay that, and I'm not in a good way, slay.
Oh, don't worry. I butcher things all the time, so we're golden here. You're right at home.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
But chances are now I'm going to look into and do a little list or something.
Yeah, I think. Oh, yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah,
because there's so many things that people work with, different entities. I know that, like JD, he has worked. He's worked with so many different. Well, he's worked with Lucifer. He and has had good things come of it. So it's not something to necessarily be afraid of. They can toy with us, but it's just also kind of like you have, having to know and put up your grounds, and like that's not going to be okay. I'm pretty strict with like that's not acceptable. You know what I mean? I'll sit there and just sound like a probably crazy person, like that's not acceptable what you just did. I'm like,
no, you sound like a mom.
You know what? Probably so. I know. I'm like scolding them. Don't do that. It's too funny.
You're not the first person to say that. You have to set ground rules and you have to stand firm. It's like, all right, listen, you're here, I'm there, you're there, I'm here. You cross this line, we're going to have an issue. Otherwise, we're golden. Yeah, so.
Right. And they know it's pretty much like you mess with my kids, you have woke up a beast. And that's, I have friends that tease me and they'll be like, they always tease, she's the mother of dragons. I'm like, oh God, I'm not that basic. I wouldn't mess with your kids. I said, okay, I gotcha.
Right. Now, Bonnie, we're close to ending it, so we're gonna start headed that way. But you're into magic. You like magic, and a lot of times when people say magic, they think of, I guess, more recently Harry Potter and going bibbidi bobbidi boo and all that good stuff. And it's not exactly like that. And Neima, you're into magic too, right?
I feel like I'm attracting a lot of that. Like I'm getting more interested in it, but I kind of have the logic of that I struggle with a lot.
Oh, okay. You're one of those thinkers, huh? Not a doer. You think.
Very much so.
But there are many types of magics in the world. Too many actually, And of course, some of the more famous ones are Wicca and Hoodoo. Not voodoo, people. Hoodoo. There's a difference.
Hoodoo. Yes.
And Bonnie, what particular magic do you like?
Well, depending on what I'm doing, when it comes to like protecting myself or my children or from others around, especially because where I'm at, I am in Texas, Central Texas, and this is more, we're close to Louisiana, hoodoo, voodoo, both, but I tend to kind of lean more towards hoodoo, and I get them mixed up. One's the religion, one's not.
Voodoo is the religion. Hoodoo's just
and
the magic.
Hoodoo's because I'm like, yeah, because a lot of times, there's only been one time that I've used actual voodoo because I remember I had to use Psalms with it, so that pulls that religion part into it. And in fact, that's when I had to get rid of a living energy that was just terrorizing my house at the time.
Oh, wow. That means you got in contact with Papa Legba and opened the gates and stuff. Oh, wow.
Right. Absolutely. Oh. Right. And it was just to push this person that was, making itself manifest physically in my home. And the person was not even aware of what they were doing.
Oh, wow.
How they say, and like, be careful of your thoughts or be careful of your what you say. That's so true when it comes to magic. One of the people that I follow and have gotten to know, and his partner, Bjorn Torvald. He and I butchered his name. I'm pretty bad, I'm sure, but he's one of those under E.A. Coed. He's one of the books that he wrote, and this is what's I love it because it's all just the title of the book alone tells you what you need to know. Magic is all in your head. You don't have to technically have all these herbs and stuff. I do like the herbs. They're wonderful and they do help because you can look at them, focus on them, and it's easier to manifest that energy you need. But if you think something strong enough, alone can work amazingly. Have you ever just sit there and thought, well, I wish this person would call me. I wish this person, and then they end up calling you?
Well, for me, it actually happens with movies. I know this sounds weird, but I could think of a movie. It's like, oh, I haven't seen this in a while. It pops up soon or something. And usually a day or so later, like, oh, hey, it's on. Like Lethal Weapon just came on the other day, and I haven't seen it in a good while. And I was like, oh, I kind of wish Lethal Weapon would come on. Next thing I know.
How funny.
Yeah, so for me...
it was just that one, you manifesting it.
Yeah, for me, it's always with movies. It's never anything else, but the movies, most definitely. Like, come on, give me a naked woman. Hot naked lady.
Well, watch that one because I've had, you know what I mean? It's like not to the extreme, but it's like, uh-oh. Because like, I don't do love spells or anything like that because it just, you don't want to mess with people's will because it just usually doesn't end up in the best way.
Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I do have some interesting stories. I'm not going to share them on the air because they're totally private, guys. You don't get that. But I will say... I will say that one chick, it got to the point where Secret Service got involved. Not with me. I had nothing to do with anything, but yeah.
Okay, so then yes, it can go
Yes.
ill. It can go bad. It can and I've had the same experience. It's like because I knew that this certain person was wanting to try to play me, and I'd already picked that vibe up, and I was trying to ignore it, but I'm like, no, you're not going to, all I kept thinking was over and over, you're not going to forget me. You're not going to forget me. You're not going to be the one to forget me. And I got stalked. So yeah, it's like, be careful with those things, because it can, it's like, what do I, and I remember, because I think it was Shady, is like, now what do I do? Help me here, because I think I made a boo-boo. You know what I mean? It's like, I was thinking it, but I just didn't. Yeah, it happened. It helped me.
Yeah, so it almost sounds like it's a willpower type thing, and
absolutely intention, everything.
And you put that energy out there, and it comes back. It's like, all right, and it's just tools such as rocks, as you call them. They help. It's a focal point almost. It just helps you focus a bit more, and you get that extra little energy, and and you do magic, for lack of a better word.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're not shooting a fireball out of your hand. I'm sorry, folks, but
it's right. That one's a little beyond.
But to actually manifest something that's deep in your thoughts that you need, or something that you wanted so badly, that's pretty incredible.
Right. See, my best friend, she's like, I'm just watching money. And I'm like, well, how are you manifesting? She's like, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing money just fall into my hands. I'm like she says, I just literally watch it. Like you visualize it falling into your hands. So when you're like doing like a money spell or something like that, like it's coming at you, and like, wow, I didn't know that people were going to need, because she does tarot readings. She's like, I didn't know and she's imagining all these people messaging her for tarot readings, and the next thing you know, she's like, oh my gosh, I've got so many I've got to do. And I started laughing. I said, well, okay, now do your list and get it done. And because she's very good at manifesting when she focuses on it, and that's all you really have to do. It's that focus, that drive, and like that book said, it's magic. It's all in your head. Well, our brains are so powerful if you know how to just kind of tune them in and work with them that way.
Yeah, it's like old radio where you have to find the right station. You have to tune it. I know everyone.
Frequency, exactly.
Yeah, everyone's like, huh? What do you mean? You just hit a button? No, not back in the day. It didn't work that way. You had to use a dial.
We were talking about the back in the day when you had to try to get cable TV, and everybody's holding the antenna, and you're yelling at everybody, "Hey, yes. No, you turned it too far."
No. I loved getting the what was it called? Aluminum foil. And you make a makeshift.
Oh gosh, yes, that was always interesting. That it's like, wow, yep, we're going to extend our antenna. We're going to get some better reception now. It's like, that's tinfoil. I'm like, yes, tinfoil works, please, people.
Neima, have you done magic?
I've done a little bit of sigil magic, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, did you ever feel an energy or anything come through you?
What do you mean? Like when something else?
No. I just mean a type of natural energy when you're doing it and you're getting your focus in, and do you just ever feel energized from it?
I feel really good afterwards, because I feel like I dedicated that time into practicing a ritual for something that I want to happen. So like you guys were saying, it's all about intention and setting aside time for it, and actually meditating on it and thinking about it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this will be the last thing, and then I'm gonna let you go. And I've been waiting for this. This is what I've been saving it on. Now, this is a question that someone actually asked me a few weeks back, and it was such a good question. And I answered, honestly, I gave a Melvin answer. And I'm going to ask you ladies this. And Bonnie, I'm going to start with you. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. Yes, I am, because Neima, yes. Sorry, I'm getting weirdo in my head again. So, yeah.
You're fine.
Bonnie, we're going to start with you.
All right.
Who would you rather have a discussion with? God or Satan, or the devil rather?
Whoa. At this point in my life, my family's going to get on Satan. I mean, yeah. I was like, I can't believe it. You do worship him. No, it's not that. It's just, well, like, yeah, it would just be him. There's so much, I think, unknown, and people are so afraid of. I think that, I guess I'm just curious about those unknowns. Why are people afraid?
Now, my reasoning, because I also chose Satan, a big surprise for people who know me. They're like, that's not surprising. But my reasoning behind it is I actually asked which God, and I wasn't specific here, but it was Abrahamic God. And my reasoning was, well, no, I'm kind of afraid of Abrahamic God because, I mean,
right.
God,
hellfire.
Yeah.
Hellfire. Well, and this is what, okay, so you said just like, and the way that I was raised, okay, if you think about it, and I guess being so sensitive, and when you are empathic and you can feel everybody's energy, and I can look at pictures, and I have to be careful looking at people's pictures, even profile pictures and stuff, because I'll be like, oh, this person's so sad. I mean, and they'll be smiling, but I'll feel their sadness. So, okay, but an Abrahamic God. Well, I'm going to use the country song, Jesus Take the Wheel. Okay, but why is Jesus taking the wheel for this little girl on her cell phone driving her daddy's car, and yet these little kids in Africa are starving? That bothers me.
I always saw it like this. Either, well, again, this is if I take the Bible literally in some regards. Either God's bipolar or there's two gods.
Right.
I'm serious. Why such a change from you worship me, you like me, you love me, or else I will destroy you to, hey, we're all friends here. I love you all. Hey, come on, man.
Right. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, because
I often say too, like, the devil isn't the devil, not what we think it is, because if God is omnipotent, omniscient, all-seeing, whatever, then that means that he knew that humanity was going to eat the fruit, and he set it up from the start. He knew that Lucifer or the devil, whomever, wasn't going to bow down to humans because he loved his father so much, and yet he set him up to be the villain. I mean, being that I'm a writer, every story, doesn't matter what it is, every story needs a hero and a villain. And if there isn't a villain, someone is made into the villain by the end of the story. And that's what I think. I'm warped in my thinking, I admit, but that's why I'm like, boy, I would like to know the other side of this tale, which is why I would like to speak to Satan. Like, let's hear your side. Like,
absolutely right. I couldn't agree more, because like that, I mean, like if I got to choose a god, I'd be like, okay, now if I get to choose a god, Odin would be pretty cool, because you get to sit in Valhalla and drink,
that is so funny you said that, because that was another question that I was asked. It was which three gods would you choose, and Odin was one of mine.
Absolutely. So. Odin was that's that Scandinavian, and it was there, for me. It's Tyr showed up a lot for me, has showed up a lot. That was like one of the first runes. I didn't realize there were runes at the time that I kept seeing over and over. I'm like, why do I keep seeing this? So Tyr, he's the, I guess god of war. And probably that Aries vibe I've got kind of goes with that. But Odin, I mean, like, he's just so, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm in Texas, so it's not legal, but I could just see him sitting back, smoking a cheap. He's just cool. He's just chill and all about getting along. And like, he protects his people. Yeah, it's not like with a mean, like an iron fist. You know what I mean?
It's more
and like they say, you don't have to bow down to my gods, is with, a lot of people that do the Norse religion. It's like, you don't have to bow down to our God.
So that's interesting, but thank you for that. Neima, who would you rather speak with?
Oh, I have no idea. I feel like I've heard more of Lucifer's side more than anything. but I was raised Christian Pentecostal, so I guess I've heard both kind of ends of it. But naturally, I'm drawn more to the Lucifer and Hermetic philosophy and stuff like that. So I think I prefer the light of Lucifer than God of Abraham.
Wow. Well, we're all gonna burn.
I always tease and tell my coworker, I said, I'm probably going to go to hell at least in 3 different religions. So we're good.
Yeah, at least.
Living in Texas, I'm practicing anyway. So, hey.
Yeah.
It's been so hot. Like my app didn't even want to tell me the heat. It said it's like 458 degrees, and I died laughing. It said hellfire, and it was it says, oh hell, you're in, it's like, oh, you're in hell. It's like, and basically it's like, oh great, thank you. I already knew this. But yeah.
And this is a great place to end it. First, thank you, Bonnie, for coming on and sharing your knowledge with us, your experience. It was a blast. I enjoyed it. I hope Neima, I hope you enjoyed it. And
oh yeah,
it's been fun. Thank you guys.
And if someone wants to reach out to you, how would they do that, Bonnie?
Always on Facebook. Just it's like, especially through Messenger, just hey, heard the show, just wanted to have a question or something like that. But on Bonnie Woodruff, BonnieWoodruff, and that's through Facebook. Also, it's the same on Twitter, at Bonnie Woodruff, or Bonnie M. Woodruff, I think. And those are probably my 2 that I use the most. I also do have and I'm starting, because I'm going to start doing my tarot readings again on YouTube, and Raven Moon Tarot, RAVENMOONTAROT.
Okay, and those links will be in the description below. And you guys, be sure to check out Neima's website, which will also be linked in the description, where you could check out some crystal skulls, some dream journals, check out the mind of Neima, and see what's going through her head at the time, which, it's a lot. Not a bad thing, though.
Constantly.
That's the best way to be.
And also, don't forget to follow Unexplained Possibilities on Facebook and Twitter. And guess what, guys? A website for Unexplained Possibilities will be coming up fairly soon. As soon as I can finish it, which probably means 5 more months. But no, it's being worked on. And remember, guys, there are things that go bump in the night. Go ahead and tell them hi. Bye, everybody.